And just like that, we're back with yet another recording.
Wrestling fans, the Drama King is here to introduce you to the newest, greatest form of entertainment. That's right, because the following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Ladies and gentlemen, weighing in at amazingly entertaining, I want to welcome to the ring the greatest, most technically sound podcast on the face of the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Wrestling with Wi-Fi. Tuning in right now.
And a big thanks once again to Aiden English, who is on Cameo, for that nice little intro. So again, I say back again because I just recorded one last night. Literally might have been one of my fastest recording to posting turnarounds for any of my podcasts that I've been involved in. But anyways, doesn't matter to you because you're listening to this whenever I post it, and I'm probably going to be posting this one, well, not quite right away, just, it's nice to have some in the hopper. Another non-technical soft skills thing, if you haven't noticed it already, that's kind of my thing. We will get into some technical stuff. I promise you eventually that it'll come up. And one of the things actually I wanted to do, and I realized I hadn't done it 3 episodes in, but feel free. Feel free to reach out to me. We do have a Twitter account, and I'm going to actually give you the Twitter account right now. Give me ideas, requests, suggestions. If you think it sucks, hopefully you don't think it sucks. But if you have any feedback at all, I'm happy to hear it. I can only get better based on feedback, and I can only give you what you want to hear if you tell me. So I'm on Twitter at Wi-Fi Wrestling. Simple enough. There's a Gmail account at some point too, but the Twitter is probably the best way to do it. Feel free to add me, tweet at me, message me, whatever you like. And maybe if I'm clever enough, I'll remember the Gmail address and we'll send that out too. But reach out and let me know what you want to hear. If you've got a topic that you want to talk about and you actually want to be a guest on the show, that's fine too. I think I mentioned early on in episode 1 or 2, and it's the same kind of rule that I adhere to when we were doing the spatial streams on a more regular basis. If you're out there and you're a prospective, aspiring CWNE type candidate, you need to get some media out there, right? You need to have some good 802.11 topics talked about, defended, with some good technical discussion. If you need to meet that requirement and you don't feel like doing a blog and you don't want to do your own podcast, both of which it's understandable if you don't. Everybody seems to have a blog, and then they don't update it. But so if you want, reach out, Wi-Fi Wrestling at Twitter. Let me know. And, we can always have a guest on. I can certainly welcome a guest co-host for a number of episodes to meet that requirement. I'm happy to facilitate that and certainly happy to do my part. So that's that little bit of administrivia, if you will. And from there, today, whenever this is going to be listened to, it doesn't really matter. I'm sitting here in the middle of the afternoon recording it. But so my topic right now, I think it's going to be sort of about teamwork, and not even just teamwork per se, but how you talk, how do you present yourself. It matters, right? And so you'll hear there's good and bad about both sides of this argument, right? So, and I say teamwork's good. I mean, obviously we've got plenty of people who are privateers, solo, lone wolf, whatever you want to call them. They do their own thing. They don't really worry about working with the team, or they don't have to. Maybe you've got a company of 1 or 2 people as your side gig, and you're only really worried about yourself in the best of meanings of it, I should say. But what I mean is when you're on a call with work, if you've got a number of people on your team, peers, managers, directors, underlings, whatever, and you're talking to somebody or a group of somebodies, what I maybe this is just me, and again, feel free to drop a comment on Twitter and tell me I'm wrong, but I find myself trying my best to make sure that I say we as much as possible, even if it's something that I know I personally am going to be responsible for. I much rather say we than I. I think we is better than I in most cases. I think in some cases you should say I. Obviously, if you're talking to a director, manager, leadership type person in your job, and it's a performance-based review or something getting down to brass tacks, and it's your responsibility or your issue or whatever, I, me, whatever your preferred pronoun is, that's the way to go, right? I mean, you want to make sure that you're taking ownership of that. You take responsibility. It's yours. But at the same point in time, I think if you're in front of another team within your company or another group, another business partner, company, customer, I find it better, and maybe it's just me, but I find it better to say we rather than I, and as often as you can. And then it's not always easy. And I think a lot of the times, especially now in the way things are going now in late 2022, where, some of the things we said when we grew up, you can't say now, or you said it when you were growing up and it was what it was. And now, you can't, or you shouldn't say certain things, hey guys, or whatever, because it's not necessarily inclusive, and it can certainly be offensive to some people. And I totally understand that. And I still to this day try to not do it, but I catch myself, not often, hopefully, but I do catch myself sometimes slipping up when I shouldn't be doing that in mixed company. But anyways, where I'm going with this is say you're presenting to a customer and you're talking to them and you've got a team of 5 that have all worked on this at some point or another, and it's, split responsibilities. Everybody's got a stake in it. It's really, I think, I almost want to say it's divisive. Even if everybody knows that you made that widget, that's your widget, that was your idea for the widget, you designed the widget, you built the widget, you put the widget together, you did all the testing for the widget. Maybe it's me, maybe it's my want to be a better team player and realizing that a rising tide lifts all boats. But I find it really kind of divisive in a way, or bothersome maybe, and again, maybe it's just me, to be in a team presentation knowing that you're representing or part of a representative team and say I think it's really sort of it's almost a disservice. And I think, there's a couple different ways to look at it, right? I think as a customer, if I'm hearing that, I'm thinking, okay, well, is he doing all the work, or are they doing all the work? Am I not getting the full function of the team brought to bear for me? And then the other part of it is just, are they not organized? Are they not unified? And I think that's it's not always the case, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I know plenty of people that'll sit there and say, well, I did this and you did that. And they don't mean anything by it. It's just talk. It's ownership of what they did. Hey, I wrote that piece of code. You did this. But it can be problematic. I think, it could send the wrong message to the recipient of the message, customer, other teams, whatever. And I think it could also be very hard for teammates to hear, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I can go back. I had a grad school class where it was all remote. It was before the pandemic, way before the pandemic. But we were doing online classes. That's what University of Phoenix did. And I have a master's from University of Phoenix. But we had a student in the class who he never made our calls. He never responded to the team chats or emails or anything like that. And we were very inclusive in terms of times. I mean, I was East Coast. There were a couple people that were also on, Eastern time. I think we had a couple that were like Pacific. We had one gentleman who was in Japan. I think we had one or two that were somewhere else in I think we might have even had somebody in some part of Africa, or the Middle East. I'm not 100% sure. But the point is it was literally a global class. They were all over the place. And we made sure our times were all, very accommodating. We had some that were early in the morning. We had some that were late at night, to make sure that everybody had a chance to talk, to present, to do their piece. But we had one person who just was never, no matter what it was always a problem for them. And we excluded. I mean, it was one of those things. We were all professionals. This was not young adults. This was, all of us were working professionals in our 20s, 30s, 40s, getting master's degrees. And we were all, it was enough. In that case, when somebody legitimately doesn't do the work, they don't deserve the credit. But I think if you're in a team, even if they're learning, if I've got an intern who's not doing any of the work, they're just sponging off of everybody, which is honestly sometimes what you want the intern to do. If maybe it's their first week on the job, include them. We did this. We're working together with you to deliver this product. We're working together with you to test or determine, to troubleshoot, whatever the case may be. I think, is such a more powerful message. It means maybe I'm checking my ego at the door a little bit. Maybe I know that, I built that gizmo, but I'm sharing the credit because at the end of the day, we will succeed or fail together. Not because I said I, but I think it just sends a better message. That's me again. Feel free to disagree. Feel free to say otherwise on the Twitter page if you want. I don't know that anybody will, and it's fine. I don't really no skin off my anyways. But that's my thing. I think we all can do better. And there I go. See, I'm using we. I know personally that I always need to do better. I think there's always there's always room for improvement. There's always a way that I can improve myself as a person, as a human being, as a professional. And I hope to all get out that I'm surrounded by, peers and, teammates, friends, acquaintances that are willing and able to call me out, to make sure that I am continuing to be improving. And it's a reciprocal thing. But I think if we, as a people, as teams, as professionals, can say we more especially when it's most beneficial. I mean, I understand, sometimes somebody does something so egregious that you can't help but single them out and you point fingers. But honestly, think about it like this, right? At the end of the day, it's extremely easy, and I think I talked about this on a previous show. It's extremely easy to tear somebody down. It's extremely easy to point fingers. It's extremely easy to be negative. It takes very little effort to jump on Twitter or social media or whatever and rip somebody apart. It's very easy to criticize. It's not much harder to be positive about it. It's not much harder to realize that maybe on that particular time, that day, that instance, that incident, somebody had a bad day. We don't know what happened in their lives. We don't know if they had a really crappy night. Their kids are sick. Their dog got sick. They're dealing with a death in the family. They've got some unexpected bills and they're just stressed out. Nobody knows, or very few of us know, what's going on that could potentially have contributed to somebody having a really, really bad day, and that manifested itself through work. And actually, I just remembered, this is part of a 10 talk I'm hoping to present in Phoenix, but it's applicable now. It's worth talking about now, and there's nothing wrong with me saying it again if I can and I get the opportunity to. But the reality is this, right? It's so much easier to say, we did this, or we will do this, even when you know it's not your fault, or even if you know you did all of the work. There's no harm in sharing. There's no harm in using that we to shield somebody's, shortcomings on the day. We've all had bad days. We will all still have bad days. Nobody listening to this podcast is or ever will be perfect. No matter what you might want to tell yourself, we will all have bad days. And what makes us excellent as both a wireless community and just in general, great people will help lift up their friends and their peers. You know when your friends are having a bad day, and you do what you can to take care of them. And if you're in a meeting with one of your friends or one of your coworkers whom you have a good relationship with, and you realize that, hey, John, Jen, Bill, Mike, Susie, whatever is having a really bad day, but they're going to get called on, let's do what we can to not get them in the crosshairs as much. Somebody can step in, somebody can volunteer, whatever the case is. But we do better as a we than as a me. And so I think that's something that's important. It doesn't always get said. It's one of those that, sometimes I guess it's one of those we think it shouldn't have to get said, but it's worth a reminder. I think we're more powerful together. We're more capable of better contributions all around as a we, as opposed to a me. And to the same point, it's extremely easy to throw somebody under the bus. It is. And I think if I was doing this 10, 15, 20 years ago, I probably would be throwing more people under the bus than not. But the reality is, a couple things. This community is extremely small. IT in general is extremely small. You do not know when you will cross paths again. I mean, I learned that early on in my career, before LinkedIn, before Twitter, before Facebook, and all these other social networks that made it really easy to stay in touch existed. Or if they did exist, they didn't exist quite like they do now. And now they do, right? So it's very easy to bump into somebody and say, oh, hey, you know that guy. Yeah, that guy was a jerk. It's very easy to make a bad reputation off of some stupid little things that are, in the grand scheme of things, petty. But it's very, very awesome to do the opposite, right? To realize that I could throw that somebody under the bus so hard, but you know what? Karma. Pay it forward. They're having a bad day. They didn't understand. Maybe what's easy to you, what's obvious to you, is not to them, and they're learning. And that's sort of a little bit of a takeaway there too, right? Like, take that second to think about it and realize that chances are that person that you could be about to be throwing under the bus is probably somebody you're still going to be working with on this project or on that engagement. And if not, if this is a one and done and you're not going to expect to see them again, you might be on a different engagement in a year, 2 years, 5 years, and come across them again. And if you're lucky, you didn't hurt them and they have a short memory. If you're unlucky, they have a long memory, you screwed them up pretty bad, and oh, by the way, they're in a position that they have the ability to determine if you can stick around or not. And so it's not a good thing to do, right? Always do better. Always try to lift people up. I had something else I was going to add to that, and I completely lost my train of thought. But no, I mean, it's important to be that better person. But I think, the power of we, to bring it back and not talking about a video game console, I think is understated, is overlooked by some people. And I kind of find it telling if you've got somebody that you work with who, whether they did the work or not, is quick to say I, me. I think it's just telling of the type of person they are, and it's it just is what it is. So that's kind of my thing right there. Trying to think if there's anything else worth covering about that. So, no, I think that's about it. It's another short episode. Let me know if you guys like the, 10, 20-minute sessions where it's just sort of, picking a topic and going for it and not too long and drawn out. Or if you'd rather, I know some of the podcasts and some of the ones I listen to are half an hour. Some of them can clock in at closer to an hour. I don't know, short of having a co-host and an actually deep technical topic, that will ever get to an hour. But I think I'm okay with that. If it calls for it, if a certain circumstance comes up that it calls for it, then so be it. But I think this is kind of where we're at. I don't need to ramble on too much more, and I'm not going to. So that's it for today, for this one. And let me know. Hope you guys are listening. Hope you're enjoying. And I see there, I did it again. Hope everybody is listening. Hope everybody's safe, having a good time, doing what they've got to do, and living your best life. And I will see you on the next episode.